Hello.
Hello.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Joe.
And this is Finish Big. Yeah, we are listening our way through all Big Finish releases in pretty much the right order.
Pretty much the right order. What does that mean?
Well, we're sort of lumping them together, aren't we? So
No, I thought you had a whole chronology worked out where we were doing these things in the order they were released.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's why we're not doing all the main ranges. That's why we're intercutting
Yes.
with rando things like Earth Search Mind Warp.
Which is a classic now.
Arama.
Zoop. And this week we are doing another spin-off from the worlds of Doctor Who. The first big spin-off. Well, actually, the first spin-off.
Oh no, that's the music for Series 2. It's very subdued music for this in Series 1, isn't it? The title music.
It's brilliant. So it's Dalek Empire Series 1, everybody.
That's right. I am Joe Ford. The Daleks do not want you to listen to this podcast. They say it will give you hope.
What do you remember when this came out? Did you listen to it at the time?
Yeah, I did. I got all 4 CDs at the time. There was one a month, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I remember listening to the first one. I actually have vivid memories of listening to this back in Southgate in Crawley, at my mum's house. And listening to the first one and being like, oh, what the hell is this all about? Because the Doctor wasn't in it and there was no companions. And I was like, this is all a bit odd. And then by the time I got to Project Infinity, I was fucking sold and then some. I was like, this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened in Doctor Who.
It went down well, like critically acclaimed, I would say, for a Big Finish series.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think it's still pretty fondly remembered now.
Yeah. I didn't listen to it or get them at the time. It was years later, I think there was a Big Finish sale, because what I expected it to be was Daleks doing a lot of chat, a bit maybe like those 60s comic strips where it's just Daleks talking to each other. That's what I was expecting, but I was very pleasantly surprised the way that this was done, because it's not that.
Can I immediately hit you with a fascinating bit of trivia?
Oh, go on, hit me.
It's hit me with your ribbon stick. Hit me. You just said the 21st, the annuals, the Dalek annuals.
Yeah, like those 60s comic strips, yeah. Oh.
So the original Dalek series, Doctorless series, was conceived when the Beneath Summerfield Series 1 audios were being made. They didn't think they were ever going to get the Doctor Who licence. So they thought they might be able to get the rights for the Daleks and not for Doctor Who. So the original idea was for Nick Briggs to do the Dalek annual stories. So that might be what you got instead of the main range.
Oh my God, imagine. Do you think it'd be still going now, like 20 years later? All those Daleks. I mean, they pretty much are doing a Dalek series on their own, aren't they? It's nearly, this year. I mean, people say it's not true, but it is. Nearly every other release is the Daleks, like nowadays.
Well, the thing is, though, it's like Doctor Who magazine and David Tennant on the cover, right?
Oh, here we go.
No, wait. Because it sells. That's why they do it. Now,
no, well, it doesn't, because I see a Dalek in a story, Big Finish box set, 7th Doctor, Harry and whoever meets a Dalek. I'm like, oh, it's Daleks again. Immediately not interested.
I hate to break this to you.
I'm not a big fan of the Daleks, but they are.
To you?
Yep.
You are one of 6 billion people on this planet. Not everyone thinks like you know.
Yeah,
some people just see a Dalek
out
on the
of those
front
6
and
billion
say,
people, who's a fan of the Daleks and Nicholas Briggs?
They flogged these fucking Daleks to death now, though, haven't they? Like,
it's too many nowadays. But at this point, we just had those Dalek Empire. We had Genocide Machine, Apocalypse Element, and Mutant Phase. That's all Big Finish had done in terms of the Daleks, and we enjoyed some of those. So having as I said, having the own series, I really wasn't sure, but I was so pleasantly surprised about how this was done. And, Terry Nation tried to do his 60s Dalek, and that didn't work out. And was it going to be something like that? They could have just picked that idea up.
I don't think it would have been as epic as this. Because I think this is boring, and I do want to get into sort of the influences of what's gone into the Dalek Empire series. But I think in terms of like the macho dialogue and the Dalek space battles, the Terry Nation series would have been very like this.
Yes, I think it would. But there's Well, actually, I'll just do the science part first.
Oh, the forensics, you mean?
Is that what you call them?
Oh, that's what you said last time.
No, I said the science. I didn't say the forensic.
You said, let's get forensic.
Oh, wow.
Let's get microscopic with the detail.
Okay, so Dalek Empire Series 1 was released as a series of 4 separate stories. Invasion of the Daleks, released in June 2001.
Yeah.
The Human Factor, August 2001. Death to the Daleks.
Death to the Daleks!
October 2001.
Yeah.
And Project Infinity, January 2002.
Oh.
So the series stars Sarah Moat.
Oh. I am Susan Mendes.
Mark McDonnell.
Oh. I love you, Suze. He's always burping. Did you notice? No. He drinks
He drinks a lot.
Yeah.
And Gareth Thomas.
Hello, I am the Knights of Felicia.
It was written by Nick Briggs. Directed by Nick Briggs. Written by Nick Briggs.
You just said that.
Oh, hang on.
Written by, directed by, and written by.
And music was by Nick Briggs. And the Daleks were played by Nick Briggs. Well, not just Nick Briggs, though.
Some could say that this was Nicholas Briggs' first passion project. He also played several characters within it. And guess what? Fucking nerve of this. Listen to this bit of trivia. He goes, he didn't want to add his name to the cast list as playing, the security fella. Tan Lee. He didn't want to add his name to that because he didn't want people to think that he was all over the bloody thing.
But he is already. He does everything else. So might as well just add that and make it a full set.
Oh, why didn't just wallpaper the cover with his name, you know? But let's talk about Nicholas Briggs for a second.
Not the birth of Nicholas Briggs.
Well, because I was listening to this with you, and I remember saying to you, this is really well structured and this is really good. Why is Nicholas Briggs not writing like this anymore?
Like Dr. Ravagers.
Well, and one of the biggest surprises of this thing is that he's not leaning on all that Dalek continuity that he loves. Is he? He's not going into Varga plants, and he's not going into Exelon, and he's not doing any of that. The only real continuity they use, I think they mentioned the Galsec colony from Sometime Experiment, and the continuity that Big Finish have created.
Yeah, from those Dalek Empire releases.
Which is still original stuff.
And a bit of Robo-Men in there, but
my point is all he does now is rip-offs of...
That's all it is.
That Planet to the Daleks sequel, The Conquest of Far, was just Planet of the Daleks again. The Death to the Daleks sequel on Exelon, The Exelons, was just Death to the Daleks again. Like, there isn't a scrap of fucking originality in anything he does anymore. There's none of this innovation. So it got me to thinking I might do a bit of digging. So I took to the library and pulled out
pulled out
the inside story of Big Finish. The hell do you think I've got in the library? And it turns out that John Ainsworth had a big part in Dalek Empire. And I'm not saying Nicholas Briggs is without talent, because I do think he has some. But apparently, when this whole thing was sort of battered out structurally, John Ainsworth had a lot to say about it. And Briggs says that he sort of helped develop the themes and the character directions as well. It was John Ainsworth that said he wanted Susan Mendes to start enjoying the fact that she had all of this power and control, which obviously we'll get into later. So I think the reason why, it's got Briggs all over it, but I think there are other creative voices in there as well, because he hasn't written anything as good as this since.
No, it is telling, isn't it, that this is so amazing and very well structured, and then why hasn't that continued? What happened after that?
I mean, did you listen to the Ravagers recently?
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean, I know that had non-linear narrative, but the fucking structure of that thing, it wasn't like there was dramatic high points. There was no drama in it at all. It was just a load of puzzle pieces that were just sort of thrown on an audio.
Well, let's go... Should we go sort of release by release then and just sort of discuss as we go along with that? So,
I'd love to.
Let's talk about Invasion of the Daleks, Part 1. Now, this...
No, go on.
Well, I was going to say, so this sets everything up. You have that... The Daleks are basically taking over this solar system universe. Daleks invading.
Well, they haven't been around for a while, have they?
Well, people know who they are, but they're not. Yeah, they've just sort of come out of nowhere and started invading. And you have the main setup. So we've got Susan Mendes.
Yes.
And Albie Brooke.
Yes.
And it's essentially sort of a love story between them.
Hold on a second.
In a way.
Yes. However, it don't work. I'm sorry. I do not believe the chemistry between this pair. And a lot of the sort of the character work in this is the linchpin is this romance between Susan and Albie Brooke. But we never see them having a romance.
Well, they're going on there, I don't know, on the water together at the beginning. So it's all, happy, peacetime. She's sort of an archaeologist and he's escorting her and they're having a bit of a chat. Pickled onions get flashed and things.
Exactly. Pickled onions do not a romance make.
And then...
She says, do you want to try me pickled onions? He goes, they're a bit hot. I mean, Nick Briggs' flirting dialogue is something else.
But the main thing about this part is it's peacetime and then the Daleks invade and how that's done. And it's not just Daleks coming in, lots of Dalek talk and everything. It's done with the human characters at the forefront.
Yeah.
And the Daleks are almost in the background, and the effects that they have and everything is shown with the humans, not just Daleks coming in, blasting and talking, which is what I expected.
And that's the interesting angle to this, isn't it?
Susan and Albie, and they get separated. So you're following both their story and you care about these characters and what happens to them.
I remember what it was like before the Daleks came to Vega 6. The air was always fresh. The suns were always high in the sky. The water and the marsh lakes, always a sparkling blue. That's the way I remember it.
Susan Mendes!
I don't want to die! You know that! I know you know that! Look, let's stop pretending. So, all right, I'll do your dirty work for you. I'll do it, all right? Just leave me alone.
The invasion of the Daleks has begun!
And then it's all sort of narrated. So we've got this narration over the top as well.
Well, hang on.
I know, there's so much to talk about.
Move on to Joyce Gibbs
just going to say it's narrated, but the way that the invasion, that we witness the invasion, is more through their reactions. And then the narration just says the whole planet was obliterated. It was all turned to ash. They went through the solar system and did this and did this. And the passing of time, it's years and years throughout this whole series, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not just your typical sort of what you get maybe in the Doctor Who story, Daleks come and invade. And
it's got an epic sweep
but it's
to it.
Years and years of suffering and...
I remember when the Daleks first came to Vega 5.
Oh my God, that was the best impression of Joyce Gibbs. Oh my God.
Take off my mask.
How was it been? You were the narrator in Dalek Empire Series 1. What did it feel like?
The waters were sparkling. The sun shined in the meadows. The girl was terrified.
The girl. She was more interested in her rocks than she was in anything else.
She was interested in Albie Brooks' skimmer. No, very quickly, before we go on to narrate, because I think that's one of the best things about this, is I do just want to talk about Albie Brooks and Susan Mendes. What worked about it is it's an almost romance. And I think terrible things are happening. She's put in this impossible situation. He's, seeing the consequences of the galaxy being taken over. And they're sort of putting all their hopes in the fact that what almost was and could have been. And I think that's quite nice. But I just don't think that Sarah Mowat and Mark McDonald have great chemistry. It's half the problem. But
they're not hardly together in the whole series.
Yeah, and that's half the problem.
And it's all the longing after each other for the whole time.
Well, it's just because I think if Rusty Davies was right, those initial scenes, right, those romance scenes, it might have worked. It'd be a bit flirty and there'd be a bit of conflict.
They were having a great time on that skimmer before the Daleks came.
Pickled onions.
Before the Daleks came to Vega 6.
I'm glad you ain't doing it. I mean, Jesus Christ. The linchpin of this romance is the fucking pickled onions, because when they go to... What's that planet called? The last one?
I don't know.
That's the Seas of Yaldaz or something.
Yes.
When they go to Yaldaz... Is it Yaldaz? I think that's
almost.
Washing powder. When they go to Yaldaz, What does she leave? A jar of fucking pickled onions.
Oh, I don't like pickled onions.
No. Well, he says they're quite hot. She's a bit spicy, Susan Mendes. But I did just want to say, like, I don't really think that angle in this works. There's a lot of character stuff that does work that I didn't really believe.
Okay, I don't mind it. I think I'm a fan of them, Susan and Albie.
It basically was just a lot of excuse for Albie to go, no, Sue!
Yeah, every time he pines after her. She doesn't pine after him that much.
She's got a lot on her plate.
She's doing a lot. And then the setup then comes. We know that the Daleks, every Dalek story, Terry Nation knows this, you've got to have some slaves mining. So every planet they go to, well, especially Vega 6, that she's on, everybody is your usual slave. We've seen it in Destiny of the Daleks, we've seen it in Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Picture it, can't you?
You know, you've got the little trucks and the little, going along.
It's set in that same quarry they film every Blake 7 in.
They've all got a pickaxe and they're all in rags and stuff, and there's a Dalek just sort of standing there watching, or sitting there, or sliding there watching.
Can I say, though, I do think one thing that he does here that I've never seen done before in a Doctor Who story, and there's been a lot of Dalek stories until this point, is the Dalek subjugation from the point of view of the planet that's being enslaved.
Yes.
You never see that happening. Even in Dalek Invasion of Earth, it's already happened. And we actually witnessed the Daleks coming in, them fighting, and that was I thought it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's a surprise we haven't seen it.
It gave a human interest to the series.
That's it. Susan Mendes, she's a bit of a loudmouth. She's a bit of a rebel. Yeah. So she's shouting to the Daleks, like, you've got to give us rest and food. And the Daleks are like, no. Anyway, what it comes down to is that Susan Mendes, becomes a bit of a spokesperson for...
A bit of a spokesperson?
Well, hold on. I'm getting there.
She is the spokesperson of the entire fucking galaxy.
She strikes a bit of a deal with the Daleks, which is a great thing, because having these conversations, shouting back at the Daleks, and it's not really been done before.
Well, and you think they would just kill her, wouldn't you? So
then she gets them to understand that if they have rest and food, they're going to work more for them. So it works out like that. And then she is the spokesperson. So then we get this deal. She ends up talking to the Emperor.
And the Dalek Supreme.
The Dalek Supreme.
And then that's when this really starts cooking.
That's really sets it up. But then we also have Carlendorf, played by Gareth Thomas.
Very different from Lord Tamworth in Storm Warning.
And Blake, from Blake 7. Yeah, so he is a prisoner with Susan. So it's Susan and Carlendorf are this team.
From the Knight of Valicia.
Knights of Valicia, from Nicholas Briggs's classic The Sirens of Time.
Oh, God.
Doctor Who Main Range number 1.
By all accounts, the Knights of Valicia apparently once took on the Earth Empire and lost. So they're a bit embarrassed.
And you don't really... Yeah, he's a knight. He's a prisoner, though, like everybody else. He's got telepathic powers, which is important.
It comes in very important.
And meanwhile, Albie is on this... out there in space... trying to...
No, he's in with the Earth Empire, isn't he? He's down on the planet with Suze, but he's actually an Earth intelligence agent.
But we don't know that until later.
We know it by the end of the first episode, I think.
Okay, I don't remember that. Yeah. And then he meets a guy called Pelham, and then they sort of get together and off they go. So by that first episode...
It's spinning a lot of plays.
There's a lot happening. Although you have half the universe sort of taken over by Daleks already in that episode.
There's quite a lot to go on in 60 minutes.
It really does, though. And they are just over about an hour. Some are about an hour and 10, these ones.
But do you know, I do think, in sort of reflection, the first episode's the weakest. Because I think...
I really enjoyed it.
I think this gets better and better as it goes along. I think the first episode it's doing a lot, but it is having to put a lot of pieces in place, and it's doing it like an awful lot of events very quickly. Whereas come 2 and 3... we slow down and we're with the characters and we're having extended dialogue scenes and we're getting to understand them, and there's just a bit more intensity to it. I just thought there was a lot happening in that first one.
Well, it is a lot to set up, but I didn't mind that at all. When I first heard that, I was like, okay, I am listening to the rest of this series now, and I did really, really enjoy this when I first listened. I could not get enough.
The best thing about that first episode is the narration, which was I hate narration generally. What a savvy move that was.
Because also, so this is Joyce Gibbs.
But you know who was originally considered for this?
Oh, no, do tell me.
It's your friend of mine, Maggie Stables.
Yes!
She was going to do this, and then Gary Russell was like, no, I want her for the main range.
Oh, thank God.
So we got her as Evelyn. And he said it wouldn't have been right to have had Evelyn Smythe play the woman. She's only called the woman.
It's very interesting because, it is the narrator, and that links a lot of the breaks in time across... years past. I think there's like 9 years or something in one of them. And it starts off with narration. You get this narration all the way through in between different scenes. But then there's a mystery there because you don't know who this narrator is. And it's sort of done in the first person as if it is Susan Mendes in a way.
What's she saying? I remember the girl.
She's saying, I remember the girl and she did this, describing Susan Mendes. But it's also in a... I remember what I did, and there's no other indication.
The inference is that it's
you think it's an older Susan Mendes,
but she's talking about Susan Mendes in the third person. So when the twist hits that she is the seer of Yaldas.
Oh, hang on a second, everybody. There's spoilers as we talk through this. So if you haven't heard Dalek Empire, go to Big Finish, get it on the
When did this? You say this came out 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know, but some people might be discovering it for the first time.
It's literally free. It's free on Spotify and Apple Music.
Spoilers.
Guys, if you want to listen to this, go listen to it for free on your streaming platforms. But it means the fact that you think it's her and she's talking in the third person, it means the twist when it comes makes sense.
Yes.
That she actually is Sue because
she's
got her memories,
but you don't get
also a different person.
Until part 4. So you've got this mysterious narrator all the way through.
And you're right, the way the story economically manages to switch from like 10 years forward just through her giving one speech, it is expertly done.
Yeah.
Really,
it's a really nice,
clever.
Relaxing voice as well.
It's fabulous.
I want Joyce Gibbs to narrate my life.
She's dead now.
Oh.
But she's remembered because she was in Dalek Empire.
I remember when Mark woke that morning and made a cup of tea and thought about Vega 6.
She ain't narrating your boring life, I'll tell you.
Perhaps a pickled onion for his dinner.
Oh, God. I'm so glad you ain't narrating this. Stay in your lane, all right.
So that is the setup of part 1.
Yes. Now, may I go back to saying what I was saying?
And please hit me with some more facts.
With my ribbon stick. What is a ribbon stick? Or is it a rhythm stick?
I don't know.
Oh, I'll hit you with my Dalek plunger. You're right. So the scenes between Suze and the Dalek Supreme.
Yes, that's what we need to talk about.
These are so effective, because of the power games that happen. And there's so many power games that happen in episode 2 and 3. Essentially, Suze knows she's useful to the Daleks, and the Daleks are manipulating her. What they don't realise is they've got a plan all along, haven't they? As they're going around telling all these slaves on all of these planets, obey the Daleks, they'll give you food, they'll give you rest. She's become this massive celebrity.
So just to explain, so the Daleks ship her out to every single planet that they're invading to do this speech to say, cooperate, they'll give you food and water, and we'll be okay. Karlendorf has telepathic powers.
Yeah.
So they are secretly communicating with all these planets to say, right, when you get this sign from us, that's when we're going to...
Death to the Daleks!
Death to the Daleks. We're all going to overthrow. So that's... but it's a long game because this is years and years and,
you know what's
and years.
Brilliant about this is all of this. I know we're jumping ahead
Angel
a bit.
of Mercy.
It all coalesces at the end of 3. The end of part 3 is the bit where they finally say death to the Daleks, and it's this massive dramatic moment. And then the story, fucking hell, cuts away from it. You don't actually see that bit until part 4 in a flashback. I just thought it was brilliant done. But the scenes between Suze and the Dalek Supreme are so effective, that sort of psychological intensity, that when Rusty Davies came back to the series, he said to Nick Briggs, those scenes between the Dalek and Rose and the Dalek and the Doctor in series 1, that first episode, he goes, I want it to be like Suze and the Dalek Supreme. I want that level of intensity. That's how you play the Dalek. So Rusty Davies was paying attention to this. We've never seen anything like this before.
We've not at all. I think the Susan Mendes versus the Dalek is nothing like Rose and the Dalek, because Susan Mendes, she has this power and she knows that they're not going to kill her.
I think it's been...
And the way that scene that you highlighted, is it episode 3 maybe, where this Dalek, just General Dalek, comes in and he's like, the Supreme wants to see you, and she's like, no, he's coming to see me.
Yeah.
You go and tell him, I'm not taking orders from you.
Where
that is a brilliant...
Susan Mendes thinks she's somebody.
She is super bitch.
She's going, no, you tell him. I only deal with the Dalek Supreme. All right.
Yes.
You tell him to get his arse in here.
Yeah.
And then the Daleks are basically like, right, fucking hell, right, she's getting too big for her boots. Send in 2 Dalek squadrons, and they say, right, we're going to kill you if you don't come. And all of these power games that they have, because she is useful to them.
Well, then let's go into part 2. So we've got that set up, and in episode 2, the human factor, this is where that's in full swing. She's going around all these planets.
Yeah.
This one I didn't enjoy as much.
You're mad.
This one, because the best bit in this is it shows, because Karlendorf is being a bit, you never know sort of where he's at. He's getting on with Suze, he's working with her, but they're arguing a bit. But then what happens is they go to a planet and there are a group of rebels, and they're like, no, we're going to fight the Daleks now.
That sequence, can I say? That sequence.
That is
the sound design
amazing.
in that sequence. They attack
a Dalek,
they're in a quarry for all intents and purposes. So they're on a planet, And suddenly you hear the Dalek scream in the far distance, and it echoes all around this quarry, in inverted commas. And you can hear the Dalek. They're scraping it out of the shell and torturing it. It's going, kill me. Man, oh man, it was in my ears. The sound effects were incredible.
But because they didn't listen to Suze, she sort of dobs them into the Daleks. So then the Daleks she's like, look, these are your rebels, these are your guys, and they kill them all. And she's like, I have to do it because they are a liability to our massive long game.
Do you know, until that point,
so she is killing her own people. She's on that. And you're like, is she on the Dalek side? Like, well, it's great that the way
that scene, right? Up until that point, I was like, this is all right. This is pretty good. This ain't as good as I remembered. I remember being blown away by it. And then that scene here where she's going, there they are, there. She actually says, exterminate them.
Yeah.
Because she knows they're going to give the game away. That they have to die in order for their plan to go ahead. She's starting to enjoy the power, I think. And that's really interesting.
That's what you start to see.
Out. Yeah. And then Karlendorf says, you're in with the Daleks now. They're your friends, are they? Because they're working for you now, are they?
It could have been done in that way where we know that they're the goodies and they're always going to be the goodies, but we're not let into what Susie's thinking or what her motivations are. She's still kept at a bit of a distance, rather than when you've got your hero and you know exactly what the plan is, or there's no scenes that much of really, Suze and Karlendorf chatting and being like, this is what we're going to do, this is okay. She doesn't give it away to even Karlendorf what's going on in her head or why she's doing stuff much.
I want to say quickly
because you're sort of all left on the outside as well, so you're kept guessing. The weak bit, though, in this is the people on the planet that are doing the silly voices, like Prince and Princess or Queen or whatever.
It's Nick Briggs.
That's what I didn't like. Is it Nick Briggs?
No. But you get it's Nick Briggs comedy. Yeah, you get these. It's a princess and a king from a planet. I can't remember what the planet's called now. But basically, first of all, you think they're laughing their heads off at the Daleks because they're nervous.
Then they're all like laughing, aren't they? They're like,
it goes on forever. It appears that they're taking the piss then because they're sort of got a private joke between them. And then the dad gets killed. And tonally, it's just like, is this comedy? Is it sarky? Is it tragedy? Like, I don't think Nick Briggs is very good at comedy. And it just, it's supposed to be that sort of gallows humour, but it just falls off the cliff. It just ain't
That's
great.
the weak part. That's the weak part. And meanwhile, we are following Albie as well.
Yeah,
throughout this.
I've got to be honest, all of Albie's bits, I thought they were the most boring.
That's a bit boring. So
of the entire 4. He's
basically off on a spaceship a lot of the time, trying to track down Suze and be like, where's Suze? What's going on, Suze? And things like that. And he is this sort of agent, but no, none of that's really interesting. You are really following what that plan is. But that's really part 2, the plan of her going round to all these different planets and becoming that Dalek's ally.
But then I thought the third episode, Death to the Daleks, I thought that was the best of the 4. And that's where you get some of the really interesting scenes between Susan and the Dalek Supreme.
And this is years and years.
Yeah,
down the line now.
They've been doing this for a long time now.
Well, a long time.
You had a glorious scene where the Dalek Supreme says to Suze, do you love Albie Brooke? Fine, then we're going to kill Karlendorf and you can have Albie Brooke to give you hope instead. And because the Dalek's talking about love, Karlendorf goes, I cannot believe we are having this conversation with a Dalek. And it just goes to show sort of what's being played with here. Although, can I please just take a moment to talk about the dialogue?
Okay.
It's very functional. Now, I was listening very carefully to the dialogue in this, and it's very Nick Briggs, the dialogue. It ain't particularly memorable. What's interesting is the situation that he puts the characters in. But the words that are coming out of their mouths, it is all a bit...
What does Albie... He's getting drunk at a bar because he's pining after Suze, and it's like, a girl, and... I don't know what he said, but it's just not... It's cringy, some of it, isn't it?
I can't really remember many lines in this. For 4 hours of drama, I probably should. No. But it gets you from A to B all the time.
Yeah.
And some of the scenes are intense. I think a lot of it's down to the performances. But the dialogue is very functional. And I do want to say that because even though I do think this is very, very good, it could have been better.
No, you don't come away being like, they are amazing, dramatic scenes in that way. It is more, wow, these situations that they're in and the situations the characters are in, you come away more of that rather than that was a really emotional scene between these two actors playing this dialogue.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the actors bring the truth
but
to it.
It's a Dalek series. I mean, what are you gonna? It's
and
not
just
like
think, you know what? Like it could have been a load of Daleks talking to each other.
Exactly. That's what
it could have been
eternally thankful for. That we don't have just Daleks and Daleks, because I'd be checked out, I'd be pieced out.
But then as well, and I feel like I'm being very critical for something I really enjoyed. I don't think the characters are particularly well defined either. Like we don't really know much about Albie Brooke.
He drinks a bit
Susan
when he
Mendes,
gets upset.
Or Karloff. But we don't really know much about their backstory or their likes and dislikes or anything like that, or what they're doing. What's interesting is they're in a sort of a compromised situation morally. Should they be doing what they're doing? And they're trapped, like Susan and Karloff are trapped in a situation where you do this or you die. And that's an interesting situation to put characters in, because it's like, well, what the hell would I do in that situation? Would I then go to these slave planets and offer them hope just to sort of fuel the Dalek engine to take over the galaxy? Probably, yeah.
And when you get into part 3, we have Tan Lee, played by...
Tan Lee.
David Sachs.
Oh, yeah.
Who's David Sachs?
That's Nicholas Briggs.
Who is working for the Earth Alliance.
Do you know what? There were scenes between Tan Lee and the Daleks. That's Nick Briggs talking to himself. Fucking passion project.
So he's Albie's sort of superior, and then Albie is said, this is where the Project Infinity thing comes in, where there's this talk of this. Is it a weapon? Is it what is it? We don't know what it is. It's just Project Infinity. And does Suze know about it? So Albie is like, find out what Suze knows.
Did you think it was going to be a weapon? I did.
I can remember when I had no... I was like, no, I couldn't.
Oh, God, it's going to be some big bomb or something like that.
I was going to say, this is out of the 4 episodes, just having those situations that we've talked about, it's not enough to sustain the 4. No. We need then these extra characters in this Project Infinity bit to sort of push it on a little bit. So it's the perfect timing for that.
What's interesting
I'm sorry, it sounds like Nick Briggs, and it's not a great performance. I'm sorry.
What, Tan Lee?
I know. It's just all I hear is just Nick Briggs.
Well, yeah, but that is the problem with him being on all those special features and doing the Big Finish podcast. Yeah. His voice is so synonymous with behind the scenes now. Whenever he turns up and does anything, it's like, oh, it's that Sarky Git. Oh, sorry, it's that Sarky Git from the podcast.
Yeah, and then we also have.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Project Infinity. I know we'll get there. That was the point where I thought this felt most like a Doctor Who story. And if this was a Doctor Who story, that's what the premise of this would be. Project Infinity, this secret thing that's happening. You'd have the Dalek War sort of background setting, but it would be set in one location in the Project Infinity. What's it all about? What's the secret of it? What surprised me was the answers were really great.
Yeah, well, we haven't got there yet. We're still on part 3.
Okay.
And part 3 brings in Marana, the space cop.
Oh, yeah.
So
I thought it was Chase Masterson
I couldn't
from Vienna.
remember her from this time. So she's the American space security lady.
The only thing I remembered...
pretty much the original Vienna Salvatore.
Yeah. Space bitch extraordinaire.
And we were saying, weren't we, that he could have gone down the line of bringing, imagine Sarah Kingdom or someone like that. He could have gone down that line.
I think that's the idea. She is a SSS, space security agent.
She's the space assassin.
I remembered, though, that she was the Dalek Emperor. I wish I hadn't.
And then later on, it turns out she's linked to the Dalek mind, but I've forgotten about her. So she comes in as well for these last 2 episodes. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge cast in this. And I'd say most of the characters are pretty well defined and well played. Sarah Mowat, yeah, I'm not going to be mean, but I do think some of the more hysterical scenes, I wasn't convinced. You know, a bit at the beginning where she's going, he can walk, he can walk, he can walk. Like, I was like,
I know, yeah, oh no.
No, but the scenes where she then is a bit in control and she's gobbing off to the Daleks, she's brilliant. I think she finds her feet as she goes along. Is that Elenia from the Sirens of Time?
From the Sirens of Time, yeah.
Apparently it was a gift to her after, because he said he thought that was a bit of a thankless part, so that's why he gave her this.
Part, she played 3 different characters in that, 4 in the Sirens of Time. I thought that was all right.
Well, she played 1 character in 4 stories in this.
This then... I couldn't really remember when I'd heard this before, so listening to this again, and then at the end he's like, yeah, Susan Mendes dead. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Have I missed something? What's going on here? And then we go into part 4, and it's more, this is where Project Infinity, it's more Al B. Susan Mendes isn't actually technically in part 4. No. And this is where we find out... We go off to
Yaldaz, don't we?
That what happened is there's a bit of a flashback. So during all of Susan Mendes' tour of the galaxy, Sue's on tour.
That's right.
She meets this...
she's like a celebrity, isn't she?
Yeah, she meets this mystic lady on a mountain, basically, who sort of connects minds with her, or it's all a bit of a mystic...
No, basically, they remember all of your memories.
Yeah.
That's it.
So... we don't actually know if Susan Mendes is dead or not.
No, it's still not confirmed by the end of the story.
They're told she's dead. Albie finds this woman. The pickled onion turns up, so he knows it must be true. And that's the narrator woman all along who's melded minds with Susan Mendes. So that's why you get the third person, first person-y thing going on. And Project Infinity, do you want to explain what Project Infinity is?
Project Infinity is the access to alternative universes. And now, this was the clever part, okay? I thought this was brilliant because it means the series can have its cake and eat it, i.e. Suze can get away with doing her telepathic messages, and then you realise the Daleks are letting them do it because the humans... or the Earth Empire, they want to go to an alternative universe where the Daleks have been defeated and learn how that happened so they can bring those ideas back and defeat the Daleks. But the Daleks know about Project Infinity and they want to go to an alternative universe where the Daleks have subjugated all of humanity. They're, invincible, and they want to bring those Daleks back to this universe to help take over the entire galaxy. So it means, basically, the last 3 hours are just irrelevant because the Daleks' plan is nothing to do with taking over the galaxy. It's all about getting this technology. However, I just thought that was a brilliant concept. I've never seen that done before in Doctor Who.
It is very good. It's Nicholas. Do you think Nicholas Briggs had this idea in his head all his childhood and was like, right, finally, this is the story?
And what's really interesting, there's grumbles about Project Infinity all the way back to episode 2. So that's been talked about there, and I really was preparing myself for some dreadful disappointment.
I mean, it justifies it being these 4 releases, 4 and a bit hours.
Well, yeah, and you're right, because then what happens in episode 3 is the Daleks have effectively taken over the entire galaxy. They say that, don't they? They've won. Their forces are subsuming all of humanity. And then at the end of 3, they give out the cry, death to the Daleks, and the rebels turn on the Daleks. So suddenly everything's like, and then whilst everyone's sort of diverted and looking over at that, both the humans and the Daleks, the Dalek Emperor, are popping off to alternative universes to have their wicked way with the technology. I mean, it's busy. It's busy. But go back again to the structure of this thing. You've got the episode 1, which is the Daleks coming in and starting to take over. Episode 2, exploring Susie's dilemma and Albie trying to look for her. Episode 3 is the sort of big one. Earth falls, or the Earth Empire falls, and then Susie's and Carlindor's plan comes into place. And then episode 4 is all about Project Infinity. I mean, it's really well structured, this. I was so impressed.
Great. Have you got some more behind-the-scenes gossip?
Oh my God, so much. How have
Go.
I not given you any of this yet? Right. So there's a lot of Nick Briggs quotes here, so prepare yourselves. I'll try and do a sort of nasally voice for them. So Nick Briggs on writing for the Daleks. You ready? They're the perfect villains because their overwhelming cunning and evil has the storytelling potential to define your heroic characters in a unique and powerful way. And I do think that's true. He manoeuvres his human characters into very compelling situations.
I mean, this plot and this thing, Terry Nation wouldn't have done this.
It wouldn't have been this complex.
It wouldn't have been like that.
Although,
complicated.
please let's remember John Ainsworth. Okay?
Yes, yeah.
Because Nick Briggs doesn't do this again. He suggests that writers who say the Daleks are not interesting to write for are unimaginative.
But he's right. It's the situations you put them in, isn't it? It's if it is Daleks, like maybe Genocide Machine or Apocalypse Element, we had a lot of Dalek talk. It's though we want to follow that human character. He's done it in the right way. It's not really writing for the Daleks. The Daleks could be anything, a big alien threat.
Look at Jubilee, when there's just one Dalek, and it's how all those characters behave around the Dalek.
It's how everyone behaves around the Daleks.
Maybe it's when you have like the ultimate evil character, the Dalek, and how people react to that. That's what's interesting. Because some people try to exploit it. Some people are scared of it, you know. Yeah. Nick Briggs says the story isn't about how the Daleks are defeated. They're the stars, so they were never going to be defeated. It's about how humanity deals with being defeated by them. And that's the approach. But that's the approach, and I think it's a really good one. Yep. He says Daleks guarantee that human beings behave interestingly. And I think he gets it right here. He says he wasn't daunted writing for the Daleks because, and honestly, I couldn't believe the arrogance of this man. He goes, he feels that he has ownership of the show at this point, and he knows it better than those that created the series. He actually was quoted as saying that.
This is before he was doing Daleks on TV as well. This is way before the new series.
He must have a massive god complex now, I'll tell you. Do you know who auditioned for the role of Suzanne Mendes?
Oh, tell me who was up for it.
Only your bestie Caroline Morris.
Oh my god!
Erin!
She would have been really good, actually. Very similar to Sarah Moat. Yeah.
And David Troughton was the first choice for Carlindorf.
Oh, that would have been good. Why didn't he do it?
Apparently Gareth Thomas said, I'm never the first choice for anything. And then Nick Briggs goes, oh well. He goes, I'm glad David Troughton was busy because we got something very special out of Gareth Thomas.
Yeah. No, I think Gareth Thomas brings he's got the gravitas to do it. But they are very similar, actually, yeah.
What else do you have to say about the stories themselves?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did prefer that first. Out of all the 4, it's the first one for me. Because it sets it all up, and it has that sort of doom. You know the Daleks are coming.
I beg your pardon. I thought 3 was the best. It had the most interesting dialogue scenes. It was the episode where Suze was put under the microscope the most, and Karlendorf was really asking her, you think you're in charge of the Daleks? You'll never be in charge of the Daleks.
Oh, we have to say the music is great throughout.
Oh my God, the sound design.
Yeah.
The sound design is incredible. The only thing I didn't like was that same gun they kept using for every spaceship. Well, it was pretty terrible.
I mean, it's not really on a budget, is it? Particularly.
I've got to say, though, I think the sound design in Dalek War, Series 2 and Series 3 is even better.
I can't remember the other series now.
I remember being blown away by the sound design in some of those.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Do you know what I called the Susan Mendes being trapped in that impossible situation? The Fusham effect. You remember Fusham from The Seeds of Death? He's in exactly the same situation. You send these seed pods to Earth, or we'll kill you.
Right, yeah.
I don't really have much more to say,
Okay, who's your favourite character in this?
I think Suze is the most interesting character. Because she is really stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you remember that spin-off release they did with Sylvester McCoy? Was it Return of the Daleks?
Yes, Return of the Daleks.
What was that all about?
Well, I'll talk about that in my chronology.
Oh, you will?
Yes, I will.
I just need to remember it wasn't really about anything. It was just more of this.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really a story.
No.
It was just set during this.
Yeah.
With McCoy coming in doing some kind of morally suspect things.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about that in a bit.
Who's your favourite character?
Susan Mendes.
Not Joyce Gibbs?
Oh, I love that voice. I love that. An audio book of this, narrated by Joyce Gibbs, would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Well, no, she did.
Right, as you keep reminding me. Sorry.
Well, I'm sorry. You invite her out for tea next.
Did you know there was a, when Big Finish were doing the short trip anthologies, the books, there was a whole Dalek Empire one.
Was there?
All short stories.
Have you got it?
No, but there's like loads.
Has someone read it out for an audio?
No, it's, the hardback short trip books they did. Yeah. There's a whole Dalek Empire.
Set during this?
All sorts, yeah. Loads of different writers.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did
That'd
not
be really
know
interesting to get. There's one called, all about Karlendorf, one all about Suze. I think that might fill in a lot of their backstory and their extra parts.
Well, I need to know about their extra parts. Can I say what I think might have influenced this?
Please do.
Well, because I put this as part Star Wars, i.e. the scale of the thing.
So when you talk about Star Wars, when Tan Lee, was it Stralos, Hive Leader Stralos?
Oh, is it those weird voices?
Where he's the one getting Project Infinity ready.
Yeah.
He's like that guy in Star Wars,
Not the fish man.
The fish man in Star Wars.
It's a trap!
Yeah. And that's all I could see in my mind when he's like, we're getting Project Infinity ready. I think that's who it's supposed to be. That is exactly it. There is very...
And I thought there was a character in there that sounded a bit like Jerry Packer. I don't know, kind of a squeaky voice.
Oh, we had those insects in part 3, didn't we?
Yeah. So that felt very Star Warsy to me. All of those sort of weird aliens, but then also there's lots of weird aliens in Star Wars. It's a trap. But plus the space battles, and the fact that it's like this massive conflict between good and evil. That's very Star Wars. But then I also thought this felt very Blake Seven, and I'm not just because of Gareth Thomas, because it's very cynical. Lots of people die, lots of people behave in sort of not very nice ways, and you can't really trust anybody. People could be duplicates or working for the other side.
Yes, yeah.
So it felt a bit Blake Seven, but it also felt a bit Battlestar Galactica, i.e., it was full of twists and turns. And there was like an element of mysticism to it as well in the Seers of Yaldos. I mean, that little sequence there, that sort of 10 minutes on that planet, I thought that was the weirdest part. I was like, we've gone from all this
you're like, where's this going suddenly?
all this macho
but that's
sort of
good,
space battles.
It changes it up a little bit as you're going along. It's not too samey the whole time.
Yeah, well, then it went off to Project Infinity, and I love all that stuff. I love a scientific base, with a deadly singer. Do you remember Enemy of the Daleks?
Yes.
Where the doctor's like, this is where one of the most clinically brutal things has happened in the universe.
That was Sylvester McCoy, not John Pertwee, everybody.
And it turned out it was the Kasabians, wasn't it?
Yeah.
These awful creatures. eat Daleks.
Like bred to eat metal and
Amazing,
stuff.
that story. Do you remember the music? Down. Anyway, so that's what I think the influences are here. Overall, I just think it's very effective.
Very good.
It is a genuinely good piece of drama. And I think it carves out a whole sort of universe that we've never had before in vivid colours.
And for that first spin-off for Big Finish to do, if they made that nowadays, it would not. We would get Dalek Universe now, and it would be, as you say, Varga plants.
Yeah. Well, it was, wasn't it? Dalek Universe.
All of that. Yeah, we'd have Mavellans and all sorts of things coming up. But I don't know. There's something a bit more pure about this.
I don't want to shit all over. Oh God, Nicholas Briggs.
Oh my God, please. No. Oh my God, I've got. Oh my God. Sorry.
What? Are you imagining me shitting on Nicholas Briggs right now?
I'm sorry, everyone.
I knew somebody once, right?
No, please. No, don't.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. They wanted someone to go under a glass table and then
Do what?
shit on it.
Under it?
No, they wanted the girl under it, and they would poo on the table. But as if they're pooing on the girl. You can take this bit out.
Go on there rather than do it on the table anyway.
Oh, it's very smelly.
Oh my God. Anyway. Right, you got Nick Briggs onto the table. What?
I don't just want to shit all over him because this one.
What do you want to do?
I want to compliment him.
Oh.
Because this was a massive passion project of his. And no matter how much John Ainsworth must have had some influence.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the success of this is down to Briggs. His direction,
yes,
his casting, and even though I said the dialogue isn't great, the situations are really interesting. It held my interest for 4 hours. I thought it built momentum. It was structurally sound, and there were scenes that people still talk about now. Susan and the Dalek Supreme.
Yeah, it's a classic moment, absolutely.
Like Susan Carlendorf's relationship, you remember.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of this is very memorable.
Yep.
So I think, all hail Nicholas Briggs.
Absolutely for this. Do not shit on him for this.
No.
Just shit on him for
later.
the Ninth Doctor Adventures and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Plenty of shits on that.
Return to Telos.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Anything he's done in the last 5 years.
Zygon Hunt. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No one does, because it's so boring.
No.
What was that Dalek one, that first one for Tom Baker? What was that called? Energy of the Daleks?
Destination Nerva.
No, Energy of the Daleks.
Oh, no.
I mean, who even remembers that? No one.
And sort of, that makes it more frustrating. And I know you're harsh and everyone always flags him off and stuff for everything that he does now. But it's because stuff like this was so good.
Well, no, it is a fact that apart from John Dorney and Jonathan Morris, everybody has a finite amount of talent. It's like an elastic band. And if you keep stretching it across 1 million releases, eventually that talent's going to be stretched so thin, it's going to be basically imperceptible. Why are you laughing? You're so rude these days. What's happened to you? All I'm saying is Nick Briggs' talent is being stretched.
Oh my God. Right. I'm going to go on to some chronology now.
Mark's chronology moment.
I had a bit of a thought about this because we've had our Dalek Empire series, and we last saw the Daleks. Was it the Genocide Machine?
Yes,
raiding the vaults of Karshrat.
Did you not notice them bringing up all those fabulous elements, the Serifia Galaxy, and all of that?
I'm just about to say all of this.
Oh, sorry.
So there's lots of references to what they've done in these stories.
Sorry if I ruined your moment.
And there is, I think the Emperor is accessing the information from the Library of Karshrat from the Genocide Machine, which is the 7th Doctor story. So I had sort of two choices here where to set this series. You could sort of set it anywhere, but because you've got those different references to what's already happened in these Dalek stories that we've had, it needs to go post Genocide Machine, really, to have any proper sort of sense.
Oh, because that's the latest
we're going from what
one.
They've done, not necessarily the whole of the Dalek chronology, but because we've seen them raid the Karshrat and then they use that information in this, it should go after.
Okay.
But the problem is then we have this extra adventure, Return of the Daleks, which is a Big Finish subscriber bonus in about 2006 with Sylvester McCoy on his own, set in between episodes 2 and 3 of this series.
I don't know if you heard much of that. He was an evil bugger in that, you know.
So that is an extra. That's basically, we'll do it one day. We'll get around to it one day, go into the whole thing. But that's in between Susan Carlandorf's tour of the universe, talking about all these different things.
Yeah.
And it basically, at the end of the day, it turns out it's Spyrodon from Planet of the Daleks and all that kind of stuff. And the Daleks trying to find their frozen things.
Wait. But it's worth pointing out. I thought that's what this was going to be like. It's all going to turn out to be Kemble, you know.
So this is it's a sort of missing adventure in between this with the Doctor. But where that place is, he wakes up because he's frozen for thousands of years or something like that. Anyway, he wakes up and mentions Ace and Hex. It's going to have to go post-Hex adventures, which we haven't got. So in our chronology at the moment, it's just going to go in front of the Sirens of Time, where we've got the Seventh Doctor travelling on his own.
Okay.
So those series is going to go in front of Sirens of the Time for now.
Okay.
And we'd have to see where, because it's all going to rest on Return of the Daleks. Because you've got Susan Carlandorf in that with the Seventh Doctor, and it wouldn't make really any sense if we've had Dalek Empire, like, I don't know, in the Sixth Doctor's time, and then we come back. It could be, because he's travelling in time, obviously, but I think it makes more sense for it to be as near that as possible, I feel.
I'm trying so hard to listen to what you're saying, but I place so little relevance on where stories place in a massive chronology, so I'm just going to nod and smile.
Well, when it's all done, we'll have this whole massive list and you'll love it.
Oh, will I?
Yeah.
Was it going on the wall?
Yeah.
Okay. I can imagine this enormous Venn diagram with all pins everywhere.
Show me the wallpaper of the living room.
And, you know, bits of string, you know, like on Criminal Walls, you know, when they've got a map up, it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
Why are you looking excited right now? I think that's the hardest one to try and place yet, you know.
It sort of can go anywhere at the end of the day.
Because it's
just
not Doctor
more
Who,
personal preferences. But what we're going to do, we're going to have these little series in between seasons of Doctor Who, you see.
Okay.
You know, like Doctor Who Torchwood went in between, you know.
Would you recommend Dalek Empire to non-Doctor Who fans to listen to as an example of what Big Finish could do?
I think so, yeah, because there's not too much Dalek talk in it, and because of that human element of Susan and Albie, I think you could.
I probably would as well, actually. I think there are other things that come later that I would recommend more.
It's not gone up its own.
What other
sorry, it's not gone
you
to
are obsessed.
A continuity obsessed within itself, or with the Doctor Who, or with you know, it's its own thing. It's its own. This is its own 4-part sci-fi series, and it just happens to be the Daleks.
If you were going to say like ever, I would suggest to a non-Doctor Who fan like Dorian Gray, which is brilliant drama, or maybe Jago and Lightfoot, which is really fun, or something like Survivors, which is bleak as hell but brilliant. I just can't believe they knocked it out of the park on their very first attempt.
No, I'm surprised.
What's the next spin-off after this? Is it Sarah Jane?
Yes, I think so.
And I don't think that's anywhere near as successful as this.
No.
It's good, but this is great. This is proper, epic, pulpy sci-fi.
And also, just have to mention the lovely cover art and booklet design. So they've done really cool, going back to those 60s comic strips, they've got on the back of a lot of these sort of some great artwork that's inspired by that.
It's the TV Century 21.
That's it, yeah.
TV action.
Yeah.
They look beautiful.
So it's got that retro, even the colours of all the covers have got that feel to it, that sort of 60s Dalek mania feel, hasn't it?
Pulp art.
That's it.
Clayton Hickman did this, and apparently Briggs said he wanted this sort of 60s pulpy art. And he said, I'm too scared to do it. That was what they said in the book. He was too scared to. And Briggs said, I'll just get on with it. And anyway, he was absolutely thrilled. Although there is that one very funny picture of Gareth Thomas staring through the Dalek eye stall. Yeah, he looks like he's going, hello. I think the Daleks in a line on Project Infinity is the best cover, though. That is beautiful. It's in purple.
Yeah, Daleks in purple. Very suits it, doesn't it?
Sexy as hell, I tell you. One of them spurting his laser all over the place.
Well, there you go. There's a CD. You can go and shit on it.
Thank you. I don't want to shit on it. Stop getting on about shit. Honestly.
What's happened to us?
I don't know.
Right, let's do a quiz.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, how many questions did you do?
I did 4, one for each one.
Oh, okay. So did I.
Okay. So.
Oh, well, I didn't sort of do one for each one. I just did 4 questions.
Yeah, I did 4 random questions as well. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Don't worry. Have you noticed in the last couple, though, our questions have been the same?
I know.
I bet it is the same again.
All right. Like family fortunes.
5 seconds, here we go. Do you remember that one where the cartoon looked like it was wanking?
That's catchphrase.
Oh, what did you say?
Family fortunes.
What's
you know
family
what our
fortunes?
survey said? Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Who's going first?
I will. Question number 1. Who else is doing Dalek voices in this, apart from Nicholas Briggs?
I know there are up to 4 different people doing Dalek voices in this.
No, there's only one.
No, there's an episode. No, in the last one, there's 4 different people.
Oh.
But I do know that Alistair Locke is one of them.
Is the correct answer!
What do you love?
Alistair Locke.
No, you love a Locke. An Alistair Locke.
I love an Alistair Locke. Oh, man. Oh, Alistair.
Okay, question 1 for you.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
What did Susan's grandmother regularly send her?
Pickled onions!
Yay!
And she likes them hot. Fucking love them, pickled onions. Question 2. The Drudgers first appeared in which Big Finish audio?
Oh, Drudgers, Sirens of Time.
Yay!
Is that with the Sylvester McCoy one? Though?
Yeah. Amazing.
Alanya! Your name! Tell me your name!
We're Colin Baker. Somebody's landed on me. Oh, sorry.
Okay, question 2. What was Sarah Moat's first Big Finish appearance?
Selenia in Sirens of Time. The Shimbinies.
Technically, I know I'm being very sneaky here. Yes, she was in Sirens of Time, but she also appeared in Beneath Summerfield, Buried Treasures.
Oh, was that her?
And that technically was released August 99.
Oh, yes.
So, just
geek.
before the Sirens of
You
Time,
are such a geek.
she did a Bernice.
All right, I'll give you that one. Okay. What connection does Joyce Gibbs have with Doctor Who before this?
What, she's been in Doctor Who?
No, she's got a family connection.
Oh, I was reading the same Wikipedia.
Go
so
on.
it's her son does the music for some Doctor Who?
That's a bit too
Or something?
obscure. I need it more specific than that. I need a name and the story he scored.
No, I know. I don't know that.
It's Jonathan Gibbs, and he scored Adventures on Varos and Mark of the Rani.
Hey!
You didn't get it right. Sorry. Go on.
Okay. Name 2 other Big Finish stories that have featured the Robomen.
Sometimes when you read a sentence, you know, I'm scared you don't know where it's going.
No, I just can't read my own writing.
Name 2 other Big Finish stories featuring the Robomen.
Yeah.
Well, the mutant phase
Yes.
definitely had Robomen in
Was
it.
it the American one?
Oh,
Galawasp.
After the Daleks had a Roboman in it.
After the Daleks?
Yeah.
Oh.
It had a
did
Roboman in it in the first scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had Masters of Earth down as well.
Oh, that's a good. I like Master of Earth. Did you like that one? That's Older Perry. Oh my God, let's go. We're becoming the same person. Don't shit on me, please. Okay. 4. Name 2 elements that are discussed from previous Dalek Empire stories. 2 elements.
Okay, well, the library on Karshrat.
That's right.
And the whatever the system that got blown up in Apocalypse
I
Element.
need the name, I'm afraid.
Fuck.
You had to try to spell it before, remember?
No, I can't remember it. It's gone. It's the Apocalypse Element, though,
It's
isn't
the
it?
Serifia Galaxy.
Serifia, of course it's a Serifia galaxy.
Serendipity.
Is there a mutant face reference?
Yeah, I think there
couldn't
is, yeah. I think there
work
is.
that
And they
out.
do specifically mention the wet works as well in The Genocide Machine.
Well, also we got the Sirens of Time, the Knights of Alicia. Did we say that was from the Sirens of Time?
Oh yeah, that's another
He's
one.
a Knight of
Yeah,
Alicia.
okay, I'll give you that point.
Okay. What are the Daleks mining for in the Vega system?
See, do you see how you do a sentence? What are the Daleks mining for in the Vega system?
Oh, yes, all right.
Trisilicate? Dalekanium? I don't know. Veganite.
Veganite.
Yes! I said it before you.
Is that only powers something? I can't remember what it only powers, but it's Veganite.
Oh, so one of those most precious, elements in the universe that Doctor Who does every now and again. Do you consider this Doctor Who?
It's from the worlds of Doctor Who, yes.
I don't consider this Doctor Who. I consider Dalek Empire's own unique brand.
Well, it says from the worlds of Doctor Who on the front cover.
I don't care what it says.
All right.
That's like you and your chronology, isn't it? Okay. Well,
there we go. I don't know who won that, but we'll do the scores. And I think you won.
Yeah. I usually do. I think I'm way ahead now, I think, let's just say I'm 6-3 ahead. I just want to say one last time before you say, where we're going next. It ain't nothing to do with shitting. Props. Props for them taking a punt on this. It didn't have to work. And it does work. So, bravo, Big Finish. And this is way before it's a spin-off too far, which is where we are now with Jenny, the Doctor's daughter, and all that sort of nonsense.
Oh, exactly, yeah. This is...
If this had bombed, we wouldn't have had more.
No.
And it was a big, big success. People still talk about Dalek Empire in hushed tones.
If you haven't heard it, give it a try. I think it is free on Spotify.
Otherwise, it's very cheap.
There's nothing to stop you getting a bit of Susan Mendes in your life.
No.
Bring her on. Get her in, and it will be really good. Even though you've heard all the spoilers throughout this, it doesn't matter. The drama is there with Susan and Collendorf and Albie Brooke. You're going to love them.
And don't forget, whilst you're listening, munch on some pickled onions.
Oh, do you know what? One thing that could have done that would have made Dalek Empire even amazing.
Go on. Yeah, they could have had that. Da, da, da. That's series 2.
The only extra thing that I would have loved them to include is the Mechanoids at some point.
Oh,
wouldn't
are
that
they in
have been
anymore?
No, they don't.
No, but the Mechanoids turn up in the Juggernauts.
Yeah, I know, the Juggernauts.
Do you like that one?
Yes, I do.
That's
But imagine if they were in the Dalek. That was the only extra thing that they could have done.
Yeah, come on, Nick Briggs. It ain't too late. Dalek Empire number 5.
Because the Mechanoids were in the 60s comic strips, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Oh, no. And their voices sound amazing when they bring them in and that audio.
Throwing them in.
Yeah. They was in that weird 3D cartoon that they did.
Time Lord Victorious Dalek.
Yeah,
thing.
but it was some lady doing the voice. And it sounded very strange.
What's her name? Rani from Sarah Jane.
Oh, I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
I love her, but I didn't like that.
That was Queen of the Mechanoids.
Queen of the Mechanoids. Come on in.
All right, then.
What
Where
are we
going
doing next?
Right, we're back to Doctor Who Main Range next time.
Oh, yes.
And the 4 stories
I don't know why I love doing the Main Range the best,
I know.
It's all these self-contained
We
stories.
haven't done many yet.
How many Collins are there?
Well, I'm going to tell you. So we
Okay,
have.
I'll try and do a quote off the top of my head. Go.
So we're going to go to The Eye of the Scorpion.
Oh, God. Who are you? That's what they're saying to Ehrman at the end. Yeah.
Colditz.
Oh, my God. I really hate Nazis. No, wait. Sylvester McCoy. Built on how many corpses? Oh, I'm sure your trains run on time, Klein.
Primeval.
Don't turn around.
And The One Doctor.
Oh, my God. Igno, what? Talking reviews like arguing with a thesaurus. That is a fabulous bunch of stories, isn't
Really
it?
great lot, yeah.
They're all fantastic.
Do you know what? I haven't heard Colditz for a very, very long time.
I mean, Primeval is back on Traken.
I know.
Your favourite.
I know.
Nissa gets a romance. David Tennant comes along in Colditz as a Nazi. Klein's in it.
All of those next time. But until then...
Don't forget to
finish big.